A good morning once again. Sewa maningi lama good morning, but once again, good morning, and welcome to this session that I have titled Contraceptives Explained. In order to understand the meaning of words, my mother always taught me that I should break words. Therefore, we will do the same. We will begin by looking at the etymology of the word contraceptives. It's a Latin word and it has two parts: contra, meaning to oppose, and sept, referring to conceive. This simply means that we are opposing conception. Thereby, when we are a contraceptive couple, we are changing the entire purpose of sex. We have heard from Genesis, Mark, but there are other couples that we could learn from, such as Abraham and Sarah, Jacob and Rachel, even Uhana, and my favorite, Tobit and Sarah, Zachariah and Elizabeth, and most importantly, Mary and Joseph. From all these couples, and many more in the Bible, we can see that sex is for procreation and not entirely for pleasure. Therefore, in opposing procreation, we oppose God. Hence, you hear the church saying it is evil. What then makes sex holy, Hazel? As we read from the Bible and per the teaching of the church, it must be meritive, unitive, and procreative. Tamboti marriage is a sacrament. In full, ibizwa kuthiwa the sacrament of matrimony. Once again, let's look at the etymology of the word matrimony. It actually means the call to motherhood. In using contraceptives, it means we are killing the call to motherhood. As I said earlier, this then means that sex is now solely for pleasure. It loses all meaning. Hence, we have adultery and fornication on the rise. Because it's now solely for pleasure. This reduces women down to objects, as I said earlier. Therefore, any relationship will last as long as the pleasure does. And that's not what we want in our marriages, is it? We want our relationships to last in the good and in the bad as well, in sickness and in health. But we are all noticing that adultery is on the rise. And that you'll notice that once adultery starts, there's a string of boyfriends or girlfriends. This is because sex is for pleasure and it's meaningless. And therefore, pleasure will continuously be sought. I want to clarify this. The church does not teach that adultery or fornication are solely as a result of contraceptives. But the fact is, for the entire time, since the beginning, the main difference from these were the thought of children. We have that example when we look at David and Queen Bathsheba. Once that difference is removed, it becomes easier to commit any sexual sin. Hence, we're having these skyrocketing figures. There are many myths about contraceptives, such as more sex, less unwanted pregnancies, liberation of women, financial flexibility, few abortions. But all of these have been proven to be false. Financial, Hazel, be real. Some of you are saying. Some of you are saying, Hazel, we can't ignore our economic situation. We genuinely can't afford children. And I suppose this line makes so much sense with the whole COVID-19 experience you've gone through. people have really taken a serious financial shock. There have been retrenchments and so forth. But my response is very simple. In the beginning. Please let us go back to Genesis 1 verse 28. God said, after he had instructed them to increase and multiply, in Genesis 1 verse 29, he said, behold, I have given you every herb. This means that God knew what Adam and Eve would need. Before he even created Adam and Eve, he started with the food, their meat, the financial aspects. Some of you are saying, also qalile. But wait a minute. Let's be more practical. Let's look at this. Let's go back to the beginning. The fall happened. God once again addressed the finances. He said, Uzola ogothuli. God is still aware. Yes, we won't have it easy. We must work. We must work for our families in different fields. Some fields are bigger. Some crops will ripen faster. Some people will have bigger harvests. But at the bottom line, we all have to till the soil. Are you listening to that? No one is going to have it easy. But in the end, we will all eat. From this, we can easily deduce that this is a call of faith. Because if you plant something, that's just where you end. You don't make it grow yourself. You might irrigate it, but under normal circumstances, you wait for the rain. It's all about being called to have faith and trust in God. That's what the New Testament is all about. Faith and trust in God. From the beginning, when we hear in Luke of Mary and the Archangel Gabriel, it's about faith and trusting in God. Even when we listen to the response of Elizabeth, it's about blessed art thou who believed. Even when we hear Jesus speaking about Mother Mary, when they said, blessed is the womb that bore you and the breast that nursed you. And he said no. He actually said yes, but blessed are those who believe, who do the will of God my Father. So this is a deeper calling into having faith and trust in God. And this is what contraceptives stop you from doing. It's about total surrender. Even Jesus, he was aware of the needs of the people. He saw the 5,000. He had compassion on them. He fed them, all of them, and they were leftovers. In the Our Father, he speaks about our daily bread. Do you remember when he was referring to how the birds of the air do not work, but yet they eat? And he asked, do you think that your life is not more precious than these? Jesus is aware of our financial needs. He is aware of it. But like everybody, we must work. Even when we listen to Paul when he was addressing the people, he said, let he who does not work not eat. So there is no way that you are going to have it easy financially. Yes, you will have your breakthroughs, but ultimately you have to put in the effort. So what am I saying? I'm saying you are called to have faith and to trust in God. to trust that God will provide. Maybe this is something that you were not used to before you were married, but this is what you are now called to do. This is how you are now called to live. So what does the church teach? The church teaches responsible parenthood. You will hear it speaking of conscious parenthood. Now, what is conscious parenthood? Conscious parenthood is the fact that you have to be aware that the spousal embrace leads to a child in marriage or in adultery. So this is something that you must think of when you think of engaging in sex. The church speaks of responsible parenthood. Yes, it acknowledges that the finances are tight. So what does it advise you to do? It advises you to abstain from sex when you are fertile, when you are using natural family planning methods. I would like you to please note that it's not about the method of natural family planning here that is in question. This is about our trust and faith in God. But most importantly, it's about the moral fiber of human beings that is in question. It is about the call to self-control, ukuzibamba. We all know self-control is a gift of the Holy Spirit. We all know that chastity is not only for single people, but even for you guys as well. Your hearts must be pure so that the mind can follow and so that the body will obey. You need to get that right. But actually, knowing the truth about contraceptives and the lies they have told you, you actually realize that couples abstain from sex all the time. You guys abstain from sex when one of you is sick, when you're in a public place, or maybe when you're at the in-laws and they have really thin walls, or mhlawumbe ceiling ayikho. There are many other examples that you guys can give me, but all those situations call you to abstain. So what's the difference? Even when you are on natural family planning, you are called to abstain. It's the same principle. Some of you are saying, okay, we hear you. Some of you are saying, it's not so bad actually when you put it that way. But some of you are saying, Hazel, and you mina. I don't see the difference between taking contraceptives to make me infertile and waiting for me to be infertile before I have sex. What's the difference? Same outcome, but you feel that you're more guaranteed when you're on contraceptives to have your desired outcome, which is not to conceive. But let's just take a break and listen to what we are saying. I am saying a lot of things right now, but I want us to look at what I would like you to remember. In marriage, we are called to have faith and to trust in God for everything. That means for your family, for your children, for your finances, for your sex life, for everything, and many other things. But it's all about you having faith and trust in God. We are called to really meditate on the Our Father. Your will be done. What is God's will for you in marriage? How has He created marriage to be? You are called into accepting that God's will is way better than your will. That God's will is perfect. That's what you're called to. You're called to be conscious of what it is you're engaging in when you're having sex. And at the same time, you're called to be responsible. And I'm reminding you that you abstain all the time under many different circumstances. It's just that with natural family planning, it becomes obvious. So, on this session, I'd like you to please pause, think about your moral fiber, think about the qualities of a chaste person, think about what is lacking, what is pulling you back from natural family planning, what makes it feel so difficult. Please let's reflect, and we'll meet each other in the second session. I'm looking forward to greeting you again. Thank you.